Nickki, Jennifer Fox, Wanda Lee, Tiffany Middlesex, Trisha Trash, Rita Porter, Vanessa LaSalle, and so many others took on a kind of royalty in the community. They competed for titles and entertained us to raise funds for local organizations and causes. They made us laugh, they made us cry, and they made us groove to the music. In the first Art History of the D panel in April, we touched on this vital aspect of Detroit's LGBTQ heritage through the memories of Torchy and Lady T. Tempest. Tonight, we'll probe a bit deeper with a panel made up solely of queens.
You're
already lost control.
I thought it was going to be boring.
So I know queens can be incredibly shy and reserved. So I hope we can coax them to come out of their shell a little bit. I look forward to learning firsthand from the performers about their triumphs and struggles, both before audiences and behind the scenes. For the first 50 minutes or to an hour, I will ask questions, some for everyone on the panel, others targeted to specific guests. We will then take a break of 15 to 20 minutes, followed by questions from the audience. And now, I'd just like to start with an opening question for all of our panels to answer in whatever order you wish. Basically, to get us started, when and how did you begin performing?
Oh, God. I think it's the oldest one up here, and the longest performing. I was dating a young man, his name is Ricky. He asked me one night, would I like to go see a drag show? And I asked him, I said, why would I want to go see a drag show? And he said, because the wonderful, wonderful Wanda Lee was performing at the Escape. And I said, okay. And I was very effeminate back then, but I did have a huge permed hair and a Fu Manchu, and it was long before I ever had these two things in front of me. What is that? Oh, okay. Before these implants, I'll say it that way. And this is the epitome, I think, of implants at this point. But I might have them enlarged before my 70th birthday.
Oh my God.
Okay. But anyway, I went and I saw this fabulous show. And I saw this wonderful entertainer. And she marched across the stage. And she was a larger person. I'm going to say between 350 and 400 pounds, with platinum blonde hair, silver eyelashes, and she did a song that I have kind of become famous for. She did You Came a Long Way from St. Louis. This was a very large female impersonator, and in the middle of it, when it said, I got my part, let's go, she picked that leg up, put it over her head 6 times, and I said to the gentleman, the guy, the young man I was dating, I said, fuck this, I can do this. And that's how it all got started. And I have to tell you, Wanda Lee, the wonderful, wonderful from Grand Rapids, that's exactly what she was. That's exactly why I'm sitting here today in front of you, is because of her.
Okay, you got the board. Go, Fanny.
Hello, everybody. I guess I started from Saginaw, Michigan. That's where I'm from. And I think the first bar I went to was Cholula's, which is no longer there. I walked in with some friends, and the person that was on stage was Diana Jackson, but I didn't know at this time that it was someone I went to high school with, and she was very, I mean, she impressed me very much, and I was there with my friends, and I always thought, you know what, that's really entertaining. And I thought to myself, not knowing that that's something that I wanted to do in the future, because I never thought that I would do something like that. But I thought to myself, how can a man transform himself into a person that looks like that? It just amazed me. And I thought, you know what, let's see what goes on. So eventually I ended up moving to Detroit, and I entered an amateur contest, because not even thinking that I would even do something like that, but I did it, and they told me, they said, you know, Renee, you have a certain style, a unique style, which, okay, fine. They said, you know what, with the right makeup and the right hair, which back then, I knew I looked ugly. Ugly. But I thought I looked good. Back then, it's like, hey, I want to entertain you. But I was coached by Tempest and Vanessa, and they said, you know what, girl, with the right hair and the right makeup, you're going to go a long way. You have a unique style. You have different styles than anybody else does. And I thought, okay, you know, because I was brought up in Saginaw, and you know what, in Saginaw, either you were, because I'm Latino, so where I lived at, it was Latino and black people. That I grew up on like the east side in Saginaw. So on the west side was all like, not to offend anybody, but that's where all the white people lived. I lived with all the black people and the Mexican people. I was so used to black music. So that's the way, you know, that's what I do. I did black music.
I was your mother.
I know. I was happy then. Okay. But you know what, that really inspired me, and you know, after that, everything that I wanted to achieve, I did it. Everything that my goal was, it's like, I made it. And I tell you what, I'll never regret anything at all. You know, and everyone that back there helped me. I mean, I work with the best. I work with Elaine St. John. I work with Fran Jeffries. I work with Malva Moore, Carrie Phillips. You know, it was an honor to work with those people. But I tell you what, it took a while for me to achieve that. But once I made my mind up and they inspired me, I did it. Thank you.
Well, my first inkling for doing drag was way back in high school, because I wanted to be in theater. But no vocal talents, a face that would stop us clock, ain't gonna happen. So a bunch of my friends and I, we came here to Menjo's and then decided to walk about, I don't know, what was it, half a block to Bookies? It's no longer there. And we went into Bookies, and who was on the stage? This big, huge black woman who was the epitome of femininity. She had to be 6'7" if she was an inch. Miss Elaine St. Jacques. Elaine inspired me that day that said, okay, I can do this. I can get on a stage and entertain as a woman. Not a real pretty woman, but a woman. Okay? I can't go to the mall shopping looking like this, but I can make you laugh by standing on my head or whatever. I can entertain. I'm a good entertainer. I know that. Deep in my heart, I know that I'm a good entertainer because I've watched people, and people have taught me. People like Elaine, Vanessa LaSalle, Tempest, April Summers, Fran Jeffries. These are the people that inspired a lot of us back then who were trying to get our foot in the business and be entertainers. And I'm so happy that that Saturday we walked down to Bookies and we saw Elaine, because my life changed 40 years ago for the better.
Okay. I have a very interesting opening for this picture. A gay version of the little skinny black kid from the Brewster Projects. I was an only child, and I was raised by a stepfather that was very open to me and my mother. She always wanted me to do the little boyish things. My father was out cutting the lawn one Saturday, and there came this individual jumping out of a cab that looked very, very familiar. Piles and piles of blonde hair, makeup smeared from the night before, and you could tell that she had had a hard night. It was her father that was driving the cab because they lived right across the hall from us. And I realized that this was a man. I ran in the house, I said, Mama, Mama, can boys really wear dresses? She said, if you don't get your behind back out there and help your father, you better. 10 years to the date. I had started out in my transition, and I'm walking, I'm thinking I'm really cute one day, and on some nice little white pants and a peach tube top, and you know, I hear this gay music popping out of this bar, and I walk in, and I look, and there was this not so attractive individual on the stage, and she was doing Ain't No Mountain High Enough. Me not understanding this, I laughed. I'm ashamed to say that now, but I laughed. She challenged me. I'm a Capricorn. You don't challenge us. I did the same number that she was doing, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. I made $15 in tips just like that. I said, oh, you can get paid to do this? You can make money to do this? She hired me. Now understand, I don't care how pretty you were, how talented you were, if there was one black girl on the show, there was no more. This individual's name turned out to be Sally from the alley. She was not an attractive girl. She had a gimmick. She said, I'm going to laugh on my way to the bank before you laugh at me. And she instilled it in me. She also had a girl by, her name was Samantha London, if I'm not mistaken, that was on her house cast at the Gold, at our place, that's where it was. And she insisted that I would work with her. When she would go to the different clubs and she would say, I got 2 black girls, they would say, oh, no. She said, well, you don't want me. Okay? They weren't going to turn it down because when they said Sally from the alley was going to be in that club, you best believe you better hurry up and get your seat because the bars would be packed. We were paid a wonderful salary of $25, but you walked out of that bar every night with $300, $400, and $500 in tips because the people appreciated the art. I journeyed on and I struggled on and tried to get into the circle, and I met 2 more individuals, Torchy and Tracy Wayne. They took me to my first ball. I had no idea about no ball or nothing like that, and I just saw all these beautiful gowns and all these beautiful girls and everything, and I said, I'm home. Now, it was a little rougher for individuals of color because they were the ones that was targeted the most when it came to the police. So we had a very, very close-knit community. I was introduced to a lady that eventually became my drag mother, and her name was Billy Joe. Billy Joe was an individual. She did not understand color lines. She didn't understand you can't do this, you can't do that. She only understood business. She had started so many beauticians in this city and across the nation into their business. She taught us the business aspect of it. It was 13 girls on the show. Elaine St. John, as mentioned, Melvin Moore, that was mentioned, were 2 other cast members. When we had a show, trust me, we had a show. Show business has been part of me all my life. I didn't even know it. You know, when I was sleeping, my mother's CPO magazine, they had the loveliest female impersonator on it. Her name was Lady Java. I was fascinated. I kept trying to steal the magazine. She would take it from me. So therefore, what I did, I managed to buy a magazine and keep it in my school locker. And every time that we would have recess, I would be reading my magazine. And that's my side in show business.
Hi, I'm shy. I don't know what I'm doing here. I've only been doing drag for 6 months. I don't know. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Nickki Stevens. I'm the show director of Gigi's Cabaret, assistant manager. Yay! 30 years performing, 31 years performing, 26 years as show director. How I got started in drag? Well, first of all, I grew up in South Bend, Indiana, which is like the armpit of Indiana. And my whole family was police officers. I'm the black sheep. So I was the kid that always ran everything in the neighborhood, had the sheets nailed to the girders and the wood in the garage, and making a stage and making everybody do what I wanted to do, and you're on the lights and you're pulling the curtain, and I learned how to make curtains out of clotheslines and everything else, and I was the deal, yada yada yada. And I saw when I was very young the, Mr. Charles Pierce, who used to impersonate Miss Betty Davis, and I saw him on TV and I said, ooh, what's that? So, stayed in my head for a while and everything else, and I always liked, you know, everything pretty and, you know, having the programs from the Ice Capades and everything else from in South Bend. Yes, they would come to Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana. I couldn't wait to go. All them sequins, bitch, I was on it. So, then I got older. Those of you who might be older in the room. 15 years old. If you remember Pipeline. Pipeline, baby, was the grinder of our day. And yes, bitch, I would get that beeping sound and I'd have that phone for 18 goddamn hours trying to find Drake. But I was on a blind date. I was 15 years old. I never got carded, by the way. I was a cute boy. I wish I was a cute boy. But I was a cute boy, had a mustache and everything else. Never got carded until I was 22. And I was on a blind date with some guy who brought me to Benjo's. This is before Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, little bitches. Also, and took me down to what was Bookies with the Pink Flamingo. It was the Pink Flamingo. And baby, I walked in there and I saw Elaine, I saw Melba, I saw Jennifer, I saw Denise Eubanks, I said, oh, well, this is it, 15 years old. Well, 6 months later, well, actually a year later, well, about 6 months, I turned 16 and started coming down here. Started trolling and everything else and getting into the bars. This is way back when and everything else. All you had to do, this was the trick. You walked in the door, and before they could ask you for your ID and you had your money in your hand and ready to pay your cover, you would wave at somebody in the bar and go, I'll be right there, hold on, how much is cover? So they thought you knew everybody in the bar, so they're like, oh, all right, take your fucking money, do, and you walked right in. Always a thinker. So, except that fucking Ray at Gigi's always fucking stopped me back to it. But I got mad at him. Started to see him Chico. But, still had to go over that. But, I started hanging out at the Pink Flamingo and then got to know Candy Sweet and Jennifer Fox. And then I started working in the dressing room. Getting their shoes for them, getting their gowns out, hanging up their stuff, and I was down there and everything else. And I told him, I said, oh, I want to do this, oh, I want to do this, no you don't. Yeah, oh, I want to do this, no you don't. Oh, I want to do this, no you don't. Anybody out there that wants to be a female person, or is it all older, all of us older people? There's somebody you're trying to like find out what the grease is? Okay.
Some of us.
No you don't. All right. That's my answer. If you want to ask me later why? No, you don't. But that's how I got started, and then I just did every show that I could when I was 17, 18 years old. I was still in high school. I would call my mom and go, I got a show tonight, call me in for school. I ain't going. Hated school, and well, that's another story. But I would do every pet show, every amateur talent show, every guest spot, everywhere from here to Toledo to everywhere, and then it got me started in another story, whatever, we'll get to that, how about MCing and everything else or whatever. So that's how I got started. A little boy in South Bend, Indiana, putting shows on in the garage, and then here I am, blah, 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 years later. So, thanks.
So I think I'm going to ask another general question of everyone, and ask what you think the biggest changes you've seen in the local drag world, female impersonation world, since you began performing. There's people here who began in the 70s. There's Nickki in the 1980s. Yeah, so get a sense of what the world was like then. You mentioned some key names, many of whom have passed. But what was it like to, what was the gay world like that you were performing in? What were your audiences like? And how have things changed? How is it different than what it was when you started?
Well, back when I started or whatever, and I'm sure all the other ladies, I use that term loosely. They're women, they're not ladies. None of us are ladies. Way back when I first started coming out and everything else. And that's why all the doors to all the bars are in the back, except for Menjo's and Boogies or whatever. They're in the back of the buildings and everything else for our safety and everything. And sometimes we would be at bars and park in the parking lot. We'd have to run to the door. They'd be shooting and everything else. And New Year's Eve at Aruba down on 7 Mile and everything else. Remember they were shooting at the door, Mom? I mean, that's why it was our own place to be. It was where not just female impersonators, not just drag queens, I mean gay people all together. It was our sanctuary. All the bars were our sanctuary. Our people to meet and drink and party and dance and socialize with people that were just like us, that were oppressed all of our lives. And that's when, I know you all can remember the first time you ever walked in a gay bar, and it was like you could hear the angels, ah! And that was our sanctuary. Now, as we fought for it for years and years and years, since Stonewall and everything else, and we fought to equality and gay rights and marriage and everything else, and now these boys are holding their hands, walking up down the streets, Royal Oak and everything else, and no one takes a second look and everything. If you did that when I came out in 1980 or 82, bitch, you would be pulled in the alley and stuck in a dumpster. But that's the difference between that. As far as female impersonation, it's good for the shows, for the audience, for the entertainers, as far as bringing more people in. Way back when, and I can attest to it, but they can attest to it more or whatever, that it was just, your audience was mostly gay, except, someone brought their baby sister, or da 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 da.
We have to understand and appreciate that female impersonation is the oldest art form in the world. There was a time back in ancient China and Rome and Greece and etc., where women were not allowed to appear on stage. So they would have men dressed as women as the women characters that carried on through the years. When it came to even black nightclubs, most of their entertainment, the foundation of their entertainment was the female impersonators. There was the Jewel Box Review, a world-renowned, this is a truth that traveled throughout the world, impersonating Earl Bailey and Shirley Bassey and all of the different characters, etc. Because they couldn't afford to have the nightclubs and have the big name entertainment come in, so of course they used the generics. What I've noticed here of late is it is no longer a novelty. You know, it used to be where the street people would just really clamor, and the girls nowadays, they don't appreciate the art. They think that all they have to do is put on a Beyonce video, copy every move that she makes, and she's entertaining. That is not talent. If talent came in the ball, I think generally every black entertainer, as far as Pills is concerned, would be an entertainer. Now, I say this to say that we're not homing the craft like we used to. I mentioned my mother, Billy Joe. She would take each one of us, she gave us each a character. Okay. My most memorable one is Melba Moore. The first time she walked in the bar, she oddly enough had on a white dress and what we call a tap natural, the big. She said, "Honey, what is your name?" She says, "It's Elaine Ferguson." She said, "No, you can't be Elaine Ferguson." She says, "Yes, I'm taking my sister's name, and her name is Elaine Ferguson." She said, "Honey, we already have an Elaine." She looked and she said, "Get me that album over there." And oddly enough, when she picked up that album cover, yeah, that's vinyl for those that, you know, the 78s, the LPs, yeah, you know the ones that had the little popcorn sound in the background, that one. But she looked, she said to her, "I'll be damned, your name is Melba Moore," and she never looked back. She crafted that character. She would take each of us individually and make us stand for an hour in front of the mirror and do, if you say you were Shirley Bassey, you had to mimic Shirley Bassey. I was fortunate enough to do Dionne Warwick, and with great success. We had to have everything down to, even when I was in the pageant, they would say, "Well, you didn't have on no earrings." If you know Dionne and you're supposed to be judging, you know she keloids. So she would wear earrings because she would lose. She's not going to put on some diamond earrings and suffer a keloid. That just wasn't her. When people would look at that, they would find and say, "Oh wow, you really do know your craft." These girls nowadays, all they got to do is be pretty and stand there and don't sweat. No, baby, you ain't sweating, you ain't working.
Well, Lord have mercy, when I was back in the day, because gay people and drag queens were so oppressed by the police, if you did not have a piece of male clothing on, you could be arrested. Okay, that's number one. That was what it was, you know, because you're old. Today, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have. I mean, we had to. After a point, you had to get a cabaret license in order to perform, which means you had to go down to the first precinct, get your felony clearance, then you had to go to the courthouse to get your traffic clearance, then go back and up into the license thing and have them take your picture and all this other crap.
Be fingerprinted and bought.
Yes. In order to perform, okay, for $25 and some tips, okay?
And a trick.
Well, I didn't go that far. I'm a good girl. Okay? Stop. So today, you don't have to have all that madness. You don't have to have a piece of male clothing on. You don't have to have a license in order to perform. And what I also noticed is that makeup and hair and clothing have all changed so dramatically. And, you know, I'm one of the old-fashioned girls. It's hard to get me to change anything. Don't look at me like that. Crazy old bitch. Just looking at how these kids are painting today, it's like, it's unbelievable. But that's not all that it is to do to be on a stage. Tempest once said long time ago, really long, that she's not the prettiest thing, but she's got a fucking lot of talent. And that's the truth. And we all sat in the dressing room at Gigi's, because it was at Gigi's, and it was all of a bunch of us old girls, because Vanessa was back there, Jessica Stevens was back there. This was before your time, Nickki.
Rosalind Delight.
Rosie was back there. Renee was back there when Tempest was stealing all of our vodka and Diet Cokes, and that's what she said. Stephanie Power. Oh my God, Stephanie Power. But yeah, things have changed with drag, and you can look at. I had to bring up RuPaul's Drag Race. Some of the way those crazy bitches are painted, I don't understand it. You know, all the dots and everything on the face. I don't get it. But someone's going to have to sit there and teach an old girl some new tricks. You know, just like we teach the young kids what we used to do or what we're doing, and then they teach us also. So drag is going to keep evolving as it has since ancient times and going forward.
I'd like to add something first. Now, understand something. Even though you're hearing the horror stories of what we went through, I'm going to tell you, there was a change that came about. And I'd like to give at this particular time, because for this documentary, I think it was worthy of it. The individual that challenged the ordinance in Detroit for female impersonators of male and female attire and all of the other terminology that you use, the name was Penelope Pitstop. Now, this was an individual that only liked to wear feminine clothes. Wasn't trying to be a woman, he just liked to wear feminine clothes. Now remember, I said he got a ticket. He said, this will not work. He challenged, he took this before the city council and they overturned it. Because change had to come. That's where change came. Thank you very much, Penelope Pitstop.
Me again, hello. I feel like this, I know it's been a long journey for all of us, but you know what? What we did back then, we were known for. It's like all of us up here. Nickki's known for what she does. She's a great MC. Fantasya's known for what she does as far as illusions. Eunice knows for what she does. And Tempest too. You know what? We've gone a long way. But you know what? We're still here. And you know, the new generation is like, it's something completely different. They do completely different stuff and everything, but they have to realize that we were here first, and we're still here. And we're not leaving. We're not. You know what? They might be the future, but since we're still here, we're still the future too. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Ah, motherfucker. Oh, God! She had to bring that shit up. Okay. Here we go. I know, Nickki, you're rolling your eyes. I can see you. Okay. Without us, you, you wouldn't be here. I guarantee you. oh my God, I don't even know where to go with this. Gang, it was so different. So different. Fran Jeffrey, Elaine St. Jacques, Jennifer Fox, April Summers, myself, Fantasya, everyone. We did it all. We tried to do everything we could for all of you. And if we failed you in any way, please let us know. I don't think we did. I think we have done everything humanly possible. We went through it all. We went through fingerprints, bookings, the police department.
You don't know nothing about no Dihoko, honey.
We did it all. We tried to. I hope we have made some difference for all the young people, and maybe some of the older gays, some of the younger gays, and some of the in-between gays. We have done it all. And without us, I guarantee you, you would not be here today.
You mentioned Dihoko, don't forget 1300 Bobia.
No place to be.
So folks have mentioned Bookies a few times, which initially was owned by Sam Bookie Stewart. He got his start downtown Farmer Bates with the Silver Dollar, and then he was the owner of the Diplomat on 2nd, and then moved up to McNichols, and he was a straight owner. So, 2 questions. One, what are some Bookie stories? What do you remember about Bookie? And then 2, what changed when most of the bars started being gay owned?
Oh my God, here we go. You ready, Fantasya? Okay, being a former Bookie's girl, I worked at Bookie's, and I remember one night in, oh my God, Vanessa LaSalle, Tony Gardu, Steven, everybody came out to see me. And I remember the Fabulous, and I got to work with her many times, and she was my sister, my friend, Elaine St. Jacques. And she looked over and she saw this beautiful silver gown, stunning silver gown, and she looked at me and she said, "Girl." Now this was this 6'6", fabulous performer that did the most wonderful Shirley Bassey you could ever imagine. And I know you're all thinking, what the fuck is she talking about? And Elaine walked over and she picked up this fabulous silver gown from this show director at Bookie's. My career will probably end tonight. I don't care. I've been doing this 43 years. I don't give a fuck at this point. You're not going to stop my career. She walked over and she picked up this silver gown and she said, and I said, Elaine, I said, honey, and she said, no. And she took the silver gown, she walked to the corner and she dropped her dress. She put the silver gown on and fit her perfectly, and the show director was just sitting there and like she was like a deer with, you know, the headlights, the whole thing. And I thought, oh my God, okay, Elaine, here we go, honey. And that was the beginning of the whole thing. You cannot be deceitful to your sisters, to your fellow entertainers. You have to be honest and truthful. You have to be gay, and you have to be proud. And if you're an entertainer, don't take from your sisters. Become part of them. Help them. Do whatever you can. Don't steal from them. Don't do anything else. Gang, please. And I was a part of Bookies, I know. It's how it goes. That's it.
I came on the tail end of Bookies, but I will tell you that I knew that when I walked in Bookies, as well as Todd's, I had to have fresh clothing. Because there's nothing worse than being in a room with a bunch of queens and someone is just not right. I was trying to be polite about it. I knew without question that when you walked in here and you were the best. There was all kinds of clubs, but there was that one club that those two clubs, baby, when you came in there, you had to be at your best. And you got in early too, because here's the secret. Whoever turned in the music, I can't say this out loud because maybe some entertainers in here now. Whoever was in the dressing room first, if they turned in the number, you're the one that did it. Unless it was that girl's signature number. We had that much respect with each other. And trying to get in there early always made us on time too. But we did not step on other entertainers' toes at all. We respected that space.
Well, I'm not doing Dion anytime soon, bitch, so you ain't gotta worry about that. Just so you know. Bookie story, well, like I said before, or whatever, it used to be the Flamingo. It was Bookies, and then it turned into the Pink Flamingo, and then it turned back into Bookies, where I was assistant show director and double show director along with Tempest. And we had Wednesdays, we also had Thursdays, and some Saturdays, and had our own dressing room downstairs and everything else. And this is my Bookie story. I was sitting on the sidewalk right out here at McNichols and watched it burn. And a lot of my costumes and drag was in the basement when it did burn. It was burned up by this spotlight person that had gotten fired, and he climbed up on the roof and poured a can of gasoline on it and lit it on fire. It was a beautiful building. Those of you who got to see it, or those of you who didn't get to see it or whatever, it was a beautiful inside. But that's my Bookie story, and then, and then of course starting there and everything else, and then I don't know what else. I slept with Tom West. I don't know what.
I slept with Tom West.
Oh! No!
I thought it would get me somewhere. Apparently it didn't.
That's too much for a mother! That was too fucking much for a mother!
Oh, that's on video too.
He's
a very nice man and very rich in West Bloomfield.
Did he have a big dick?
I don't remember. Well, if you don't remember, it wasn't very big. Well, we were drunk at 7 o'clock in the morning at the R&R, but we won't go there.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I'm ashamed of you!
She's a pig. Don't even start it. What if I walked in on it with your bedroom?
Quiet!
Been talking with Renee on the phone and watching Fantasia's video. There was discussion about living with other performers. And I know that, back in the 60s, a lot of the performers at the Diplomat all lived in one house. And there's a building that apparently is no longer there in the Palmer Park apartments that was known as the Drag Academy. So what would it be like, for those of us who haven't lived with performers, what is it like to have your roommates who are also your comrades, but also your rivals on stage?
Elaine St. Jack and I were roommates for quite a while, and so was Melvin Moore. Now, especially with Elaine, and pageants were the deal. I mean, when it was 15 and 20 contestants in a pageant. 2 months before the pageant, nobody had a phone. This was before cell phones. It was landline phones. If you were not a dancer, if you were not doing the costume, if you were not doing the makeup, you did not come to the house. Girl, I tried to call you. Okay, did I answer the phone? No, they say your phone is off. Yes, that's to tell you, do not come over. When we got in the dressing rooms of those pageants, we carefully pulled out our stuff. And we had our roommate sitting right next to us. She would be in her bedroom doing her stuff. I would do in my bedroom doing her stuff. You call somebody, girl, I can't talk. I'm on my way to do something for someone else. But it was a challenge, but it was all in good fun and humor. And also, this is why you didn't want me to see what you was well, that's okay. And you shake out another gown.
Okay. I have to tell you that when I first came here in Tempest, she was more than welcome. I had just broke up with my boyfriend, lover, whatever, after 8 years, and I needed a place to stay. And she said, Renee, you know, come stay with me. You're more than welcome. She was always willing to help everybody. And it was not that it was competition, but it's like most of the people that we lived together with, we were all drag queens. And we each had our own little pageant that we entered, but we all had titles at that time. But you know, she always welcomed everybody there, and it was just an opportunity, you know, and she always made sure that everyone was taken care of. And at this time, believe it or not, I was working at Hudson's and I worked in the receiving area. Yeah, I worked in the stock. I unloaded trucks and everything. But she was always very respected because she knew that I had to be to work at like 6 in the morning, and she would tell everyone in the house, you know what, be quiet. Because if you work Renee up, which I could be a bitch every now and then, she said, she's going to let you have it. But you know what? The thing is, yeah, so yeah, exactly. But you know what? She was our mom, you know, and she was there for us. She really was, and she helped all of us. Whether you know, and like I said, it wasn't a drag queen house. It was a family house. Whether you were in a pageant, it was family. We were family, and you know what? We're still family. But you know what? The memories of that are very wonderful. I mean, we had so many friends over there, and Nickki's family too, and I love Nickki, and I respect Nickki, and I always will. She's one person that is the same way as Tempest. She's always there to respect you, and I respect Nickki, and I will always respect her too. But we're a family. That's why we're up here, because you want to hear what we went through, and we've gone through it all. Thank you.
Well, me and Tempest have lived with everybody. Me and Tempest started living together 1988, 89.
Golden Girls.
Yeah, 19. We had Tamara living with us at one point.
Caress?
No, we were talking about 7744 Patton. I never lived there. Caress, Serena Escobar.
Was Sybil too?
No Sybil. Tamara Jacobs. I mean, we had them running through there. We had Monica Dane, Gina Jones, Lord, Scarlet Fever.
Little boy.
That little boy? Yeah, that little boy. Yeah, that little boy. Ricky, are you talking about?
No, he was about 22, 23.
He was whatever. He was very nice at 3 in the morning. I know he was. All right. But we lived everywhere, and we would script and save, and I mean, back then or whatever, it was, you know, fight for a booking. Tempest had her regular bookings. I had my regular bookings. The ones that were in
Midnight Sun?
the ones that were living on Midnight Sun, Gold Coast.
Gas station. Yeah! We lived from week to week,
Yeah.
day to day, and everything else.
Oh yeah. We lived in some pretty shady places too.
We did not know.
6 Mile and John R.
6 Mile and John R.
Baby.
We lived in a home at one time that we thought was so fabulous, and we put the money down.
1 month, or 3 weeks.
3 weeks, and there was a pounding at the door. We didn't know why, and Nickki and I went down, and there was an eviction notice because the son of a bitch that rented us the house didn't even own
the house.
Didn't even own it.
So we were living there, had everything changed over. 3 weeks later, whatever, they were foreclosing on the house, and so we had to get out. Whatever. That's when we moved to Telegraph and 8 Mile.
Telegraph. That was my favorite house.
We lived at 7
and Nickki hated it.
I hated that house. He hated it. And Robin Wood, I hated that house too.
I know you did.
Oh, with Robin Wood and Woodward. I hated, well, 6 Mile and John R. We moved out because me and Tempest were coming home one night, and the neighbor got shot right next door to us or whatever, was getting robbed as we were getting out of the cab. I said, nope, time to go. So.
Yeah, I have to tell you, the fucking 6 Mile Woodward, the apartment, the flat, it was tilted.
Oh yeah, the upstairs it was like this.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So when she got drunk, she walked straight.
But that's where gay people and queens learn to survive. And I have to tell you, this is my child. She always will be. And hey, we've been through it all,
baby.
If
food stamps,
and but
everything. Food stamps way back when, and everything else. Lord, there was 3 or 4 of us in the house on food stamps. Lord, going to Myers, bitch, put that lobster in that fucking cart, bitch. We were living.
peanut butter cookie.
Peanut butter cookie. No, Raul's chicken nuggets in the fucking freezer. Sorry, that's right. But Tim, you were saying about the apartment building or whatever, which brings me back to when I first moved out of, I grew up in South Bend, and then we moved up here when my mom got remarried, and I grew up in West Bloomfield. And when my first apartment, I got out of high school, just done. My first apartment was in Highland Park, and it was called the Highland Towers, which is now burned up. It's still there. The old McDonald's was there. Now it's a Coney Island or whatever. Melba lived on the next block over, and we called it the Homo Hilton because everybody lived there. Everybody. Candy Sweet lived there. Denise lived there for a minute. April lived there for a minute. Heather Lane lived there. Heather Lane lived in my old apartment. Everybody lived in the Homo Hilton. It was fabulous. We had underground parking, so you didn't have to go on the street. But I'm talking about. But we were all, and then everybody would. They had house phones. They had an operator downstairs or whatever, so you didn't have like an outside line. So you would just like pick up the phone, and it was like a hotel, and you would go, "Give me Candy, that fucking bitch's fucking," you would ring her up or whatever. And so it was always us running around in curlers in our hair. No, not really, but up and down the hallways, going apartment to apartment. Andy Burkacki lived. Remember Andy Burkacki? Andy Burkacki lived next door to me.
Yes, I do. Yes.
He set the stage on fire at Gigi's, remember?
Yeah.
Doing Great Balls of Fire. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember Andy. I think I slept with him once.
I also have to add, as far as Palmer Park is concerned, back in the day, when you lived in Palmer Park, you were established. You were, as today's terminology, you were the shit.
You didn't understand.
And the goal was to be the first one to move into 10-10 couture.
Yeah.
Bruce 10, okay. I lived in, what was it? 617, 618? What? Merton. Okay. Judy Garland, stupid me. I didn't know her real name. Was Judy, what was it, Nickki? Gum. Yeah. Judy Gum. And I moved in this apartment, and there were all these letters and everything. And I moved into the apartment with my lover, and we became the managers of the building. And there were all these, Ira Gum was the gentleman that was in charge of everything. And there were all these stupid letters from Judy Gum, not knowing she was Judy Garland. And I threw them all out, destroyed them all. Maybe I could be rich today, I don't know. Maybe my implants could be bigger, I have no idea. But anyway, who the fuck? Anyways, but I have to tell you, Power Park, it was absolute fucking deal. I would not trade it for anything.
So this is a question specifically for Lady T. So when you talked with Jason Michael, Between the Lines, you mentioned that you were, you had been Miss Gold Coast, you've been Miss Rubies, you've been Miss Flaming Rubies, you've been Miss Other Side, you've been Miss Cruise Club, you've been Miss Gigi's, and other titles. And all of you are past Miss Gigi winners and various other titles. So I'd like Lady T or someone else to, what was this title business all about, and what was expected of someone who held the title?
Oh my God.
For those
okay.
It's changed, in fact.
It has changed tremendously. The purpose of owning that title and being that title was that year that you did have that title, you did everything humanly possible to make it the best possible. I remember winning this cruise club, and I remember, oh my God, okay.
Only took 1 point.
Okay. It was $1,000 first prize, and you had to sign up by 7:30. And fuck anyone that I didn't care about. You had to sign up by 7:30. So I stepped out of my car with my friends at 7:29, and people were standing there. They're entertainers, and they said, "Are you emceeing?" I said, "No." And they said, "Are you part of the special entertainment?" I said, "No." And they said, "Well, you certainly wouldn't be entering." I said, "I have no idea." And the manager walked out and he said, "Who is signing up? It's $1,000 first prize." I said, "I am." And I happened to win that night, and half of the audience booed, and half of the audience stood up and applauded. And I said to everyone, I said, "Please, let me finish out my year. If I don't do everything you want me to, then you boo me. Don't boo me tonight, because I have collected the $1,000 prize."
What she's not telling you all about that pageant is 4 girls dropped out of the pageant when they found out that she was there. I was not smart enough to be one of those 4 girls. I stayed in the pageant. I ended up first runner-up.
That's what Felicia did. Islands in the Stream. Remember that? Felicia Burdo.
Oh!
Islands in the Stream with the puppet. Whatever.
And she was the first one to do my face.
Felicia Bardone?
Yeah.
Dogged you that night, girl.
I thought she did a fabulous job.
Felicia?
My face.
No, but she said to you, that's why I said 1 point. Remember, she came up to you and go, you only beat me by 1 point, and you said to her, it only took one.
She was a loser.
It only took one.
Honey. All it takes is 1 point to be a loser, honey. And she was a fucking loser. But I have to tell you, about a year after that, she was the first one to ever do my face. I think I look fabulous for 65 years old.
Pageants are just a way to bring more status in the art form, as well as stepping stones or whatever to try to get you more exposure, as well as like the very first pageant I ever entered was Miss Gigi's 1988 when Fantasya won, and there was 13 contestants. I had no clue what the hell I was doing. No clue. She did Whoopi Goldberg to win. I remember that. I probably did some Taylor Dane dance song, probably. Oh my God, it was horrible. But,
dance, bitch, dance!
Then I won Miss Amateur Gold Coast, the very first Miss Amateur Gold Coast, because it used to be called Gold Coast Saloon before that, and it switched owners, and I was the very first. So it went from Bruce to Jerry. And Renée was my very first Miss Gold Coast. But then I became show director there, and then I won 1991 Miss Gold Coast. I was still show director, and then 92 I won Gigi's, and then I won other crap. But then I've been there. I'm the Miss Gigi's that's never left. I have been there 26 years. And so I run all the pageants and everything else, and you were asking how it's changed and everything else. It used to be just white presentation, and used to be talent, on-stage question and answer, and evening gown and everything else. And now we have interview, and there's a lot of contracts, and there's a lot of obligations that the winners have to meet throughout the year, and so such as they have to be at Gigi's, and half of their prize money is split up between that, so they're there, and if they're not there, then they forfeit that money. Like they have to be there on Halloween nights because that is the gay holiday. New Year's Eve. They have to be there the first Wednesday of March, which is the anniversary of Gigi's. They have to do one special and private event, and then they have to do Toys for Tots, which has always been a Tony Garneau Toys for Tots, which has always been a big thing at Gigi's, as well as for the city of Detroit. So that's how they get the rest of their money. That's all the title holders, Miss, Amateur, as well as Classic. And then this year, if there's 5 contestants or more, we have, the very first year we're doing it because it's our 45th anniversary, it's Miss Gigi Supreme, which is only opened up to past Miss Amateurs, past Miss Gigi's, or past Miss Gigi's Classics. So it's all the sisters battling against one another. It's going to be on Friday, the 3rd weekend of October. There has to be 5 contestants to be able to enter, $100 entry fee. It's winner take all. So if there's 10, they win $1,000. If there are 15 of them, it's $1,500. It's winner take all. It's the first year that we're going to do it for the 45th, and it's a 5-year title. We won't do it again until the 50th anniversary. So that's what's changed as far as my Gigi's pageantry or whatever.
So I got one question before we take the break. In the course of my research, I looked up and found the death certificate for Melba Moore, Robert Bruner.
Right.
And under occupation, whoever had filled out the death certificate said never worked. Oh. And I took tremendous offense to that. And I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about what work goes into what you do.
You want to, let Connie talk. Well, hold on a minute, because I mean, we did April, and we all got, me and Connie got together. We paid for the funeral and everything. We did a show and everything else at Gold Coast. And the family, you know the ins and outs more than anybody else. So,
all right,
hold on.
I'm gonna. Okay.
I'm out.
Being buried as a male and everything else. Hold on.
Don't.
right, just go ahead. How the fuck do you say it?
Melba was, like I said earlier, I'm an only child. Melba was truly the closest individual I ever had as a sister. She was put out the house at 14 years old. She was an alcoholic because of the fact that she wasn't accepted by her family. This was an individual that was extremely, extremely talented. I wish I had the talent and her baby told that this individual had. Her family was Jehovah's Witness, which made it even worse.
Fuck that.
When she was worthy to loan family members money, they were good. When they wanted to have a babysitter, she was good enough. She was never invited to Christmas dinners or Thanksgiving dinners. And that's just what was typical in black culture, to be rejected from our families. When she made her transition, she had been deceased in a hotel room for 4 days. When April called me and said, "Sister, we have lost Melba." This was an individual that was struggling, trying to get on Social Security, SSI, so that she could get medical attention. She had cirrhosis of the liver. She couldn't even get government assistance. So she had it real, real hard. When I was informed that the family wasn't going to do anything, April said, "What are we going to do?" She said, "I'm going to do whatever I can at the Gold Coast." I called Vanessa LaSalle at Gigi's. I said, "We're having a benefit for Melba. What do I need to do?" I said, "This is what we're doing. What do you want me to do? Don't say what's going on. Tell me what you want me to do." "No, this is what I'm going to do." "When is the benefit?" We said, "The next night." She said, "This is what I'm going to do. At the same time, the east side of Detroit will have a benefit for her. We, at the same token, will have one at Gigi's." On the hour, we called each other and so they, between the two, and said how much money. We raised $7,000 to give her a dignified birth. When we got to the funeral home, I must say this: the family did not want to do absolutely anything. Okay, they wanted her buried as a man.
Robert.
The first time I ever saw her, like I said, with a cap natural with a white dress on, that was the vision that I had in my mind. When April said this, they was putting her in a suit, I refused to even go visit the body in preparation or anything. She was buried with flowers that covered Swanson's, the chapel, from one end to the other. There was not an empty seat in there. They were putting the office seats out for people to sit. The family wanted to fall out and scream. Okay. They did not even want to have a reprise for her. They came to off-Broadway East where the children was partying and celebrating her and trying to be respectful of the family. So it's no surprise that the family, in taking care of business like that, would not recognize her as an entertainer. That's really no surprise, but it's hurting. It's hurting, really.
Fuck the family.
Thank you for that. We're going to take a 15-20 minute break, so refresh your drinks, and we'll come back and open it up to the audience for Q&A.
3, 2, you can go now. Turn it on. It's on.
Hello?
Hey!
Hi. I would like to start this question with a disclaimer. And feedback.
Step back from the speaker.
Please.
All right.
Just give her, Tim, give her yours. Just give her yours. There you go.
Thank you. I don't mean to be difficult. I would like to start this question with a disclaimer. I was born female and I do not own a dress. And so I asked my friend here, I said, what's the story behind that wedding dress? And he, directed my attention to these gorgeous gowns. And I would like to know the story. He said they were all yours. And so I'd like to know the story around these gowns.
There you go.
Oh my God, okay. How do we do this? Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see a green something up there, feathered and rhinestoned and stoned or whatever. That was a part of my Miss Gigi's. There it is, right up there. In the middle, that's a part of my life. Part of my beginning. We had to have some fabulous costumes and everything, and that was mine right up there, the green with the feathers and the stones and everything. And then, if you go one more, there is a gown with Aurora Borealis stones and everything. That was something Tony Balance did for me because I asked him to, and I just want to say, gang, that's how we used to do things. It was fabulous, it was wonderful, and it was all part of us.
Yes, I can say that the white Cassini over here, sponsored by Hudson's, is mine. And that was the gown that I had presentation when I won Miss Gay Michigan America at Gigi's. And the beaded dress over there, which everyone said weighed too much, they complained because they picked it up as Renee, what is in this bag? It's fully beaded. That's when my promos when I won Miss Gay Michigan America. Okay. Next.
Okay. I have this one behind me. Well, that green gown with all the Paragon or whatever the green stones, that's the gown that Destiny Hunter made for me for my evening gown presentation for Miss Gigi's Classic when I won.
Oh,
yeah! My Miss Gigi's gown disintegrated. It was so old. And then this white fringe gown, it matches Renee's red fringe gown. I found that in downtown Farmington on Farmington days for $1. And it fits. I was so ecstatic. So I said, I have to display that because that's my best buy.
Oh, what is it?
Well, the first one over here, that's my Miss Gigi's gown for 1992. That's when I won. Vanessa LaSalle had just painted the trim in the showroom, that color, and I went out and found the gown. So because my OCD, so I had to match. So that's what that's all about. The other two gowns, the purple, the royal purple right there, and the one hanging in the middle, which is my dragon gown. They both weigh approximately like 50 pounds. Maybe the dragon gown weighs a little bit more. Those were my second year competing for Miss Continental Plus in Chicago. They were both made in Indianapolis, Indiana. I had to fly back and forth from Indianapolis, from Detroit, or drive for 3 months. And talking about, to answer your questions or whatever, about what we spend and everything else, that gown cost about $2,000 and the dragon gown cost $4,000 to have made.
So we have a question, someone coming around, but while we're waiting, last time we didn't get a chance to talk about the Performers Awards of Detroit, so I'm wondering if someone could talk about that. I think Renee was elected to the board at some point.
Years ago.
I could talk about that because I was chairperson for 2 years. I was on the board for 7 years. Performance Awards of Detroit is formerly known as Performance Awards of Michigan, and what it is the oldest gay awards ceremony in the country. It's basically the same thing as your Academy Awards or your Tony Awards, that kind of things, where your entertainment community recognizes excellence and rewards them with a trophy and recognition. Basically, is what it is.
And also people that aren't just performers, but the crew, people in the background as well.
Right. Anyone who's involved in gay entertainment in the city of Detroit can get involved in PAD and be a part of it. Right, Detroit metropolitan area.
And I want you to know that the individual that thought this idea up, and in fact, I remember hours and hours and hours of talking to Elaine St. John, but the creator is tortured.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you.
Miss Elizabeth Taylor.
Yo, bitch.
Thank you. With her portholes.
Fucking conscience. She didn't have nothing better to do in 1974.
God bless you, honey.
Tempest, shut up.
Bitch.
You know what Elaine said? You're opening up Pandora's box.
And you did, bitch.
It was mentioned how important years ago to get a bar title. It was important years ago because in order to, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, in order to enter like Miss Gay Detroit, in order to enter that contest, you had to have a bar title, correct?
Yeah.
So that's why I was...
At one point.
Not necessarily.
Well, years ago, I'm going back to the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. In order to enter like Miss Gay Detroit, you had to have a bar title.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then in terms of Queen of Queens of Michigan, you had to have it that way.
Actually, Nickki also explained about it was how you got your name out. I had moved to Chicago for a while and I came back and it was all the way for Miss Michigan America, and it was at the Masonic Temple. I had come back into the city and I was trying to get my name really going. And every pageant that I would enter, Elaine St. John, my roommate, would enter. If she won, I was first runner-up. If she was second runner-up, I was third runner-up. But I always followed behind her. I got in Michigan knowing full well I didn't belong in the pageant because, one, I had started on hormones. It was for strictly male. I just wanted to get my name out there. And as far as my character, Dior Warwick, is concerned. Oddly enough, when they called Elaine St. John third runner-up that year, so okay, there goes the end of my run. They said, and your winner is Fantasya. If you can find a cruise magazine, if everyone ever sees that, and they see my picture on the cruise magazine, it says, what the fuck? Because I did not anticipate winning. I just wanted to get my name out as a potential contestant later on. But in answer to your question, you can sneak in there sometimes, but now they're getting more as far as rules and regulations, etc., etc.
And also, I just want to put it out there, back in the day when 1977, in order, if you weren't part of a clique to get booked into shows, you had to win a title. So, thank God I won Miss Gold Coast Saloon in 1982, so I didn't get booked at Gigi's in Todd's.
Oh my God, I hate it. Okay. Alright, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, okay. What clique was it? I booked every fucking bitch possible at the gas station. Chili Pepper, 25 bucks. Jennifer Fox, 25 bucks. April Summers, 25 bucks.
It was before
I didn't give a fuck.
But you know that there was the Flamingo girls, there was the Gigi's girls, there was that all went on and everything else. The gas station was neutral ground, it didn't matter.
Oh, okay, gas station was a part of it.
But now, Vicky, to answer your question, now there's no more Miss Gay Detroit. Now there's Miss Dazzling Detroit, which the very first is sitting right here, Fantasya. And that's coming up on the 22nd of July, which is a Sunday at, what's the place called? It's right next to the DIA.
It's the Fashion Institute.
The Fashion Institute, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pageant to see. I'll be there, I'll be performing, I'll be judging or whatever. And the current rating is Miss Evelyn Thomas. And it's girls, and there's entertainment from across the country. So we invite you to come down to that. That's coming up. Miss Dazzling Detroit now. That's the big thing. World Queen of Queens of Michigan. Queen of Queens of Michigan is no longer. Miss Gay Detroit is no longer.
So I don't see anyone here. So I'll ask one last question for the evening, which is that I know for many of you, Detroit was home base, but you performed in other cities. So what is a standout memory of one of your performances in one of the other cities in Michigan?
In Michigan?
Oh my God! In Michigan or outside of Michigan?
Whoa.
Okay, outside of Michigan was Ohio.
Oh God.
All right, motherfucker. What Caesar's Palace? The night I won. Denise Michaels, God bless her, was one of my best friends. She did my hair, my makeup. She came to Detroit about 2 weeks ahead of time, picked out a gown for me. She paid for it and everything else. I worked my ass off to make sure I was respectful to her for all she had done for me. And the night I won, Miss Bobo O'Neill, rest in peace. Okay.
Judy's here.
Judy's here? Okay, who's Judy? I don't know who she is.
Bobo O'Neill, Judy Garland.
Oh, it's Judy Garland. Okay. And the night I won, Denise had done my hair, my makeup, and everything else. She had paid for the gown. And I did everything everyone asked me to do. And when they said, ladies and gentlemen, the first runner-up was Bobo O'Neill. She had thrown roses and flowers and everything else at the judges. And they said, ladies and gentlemen, the winner is the Lady T. Tempest, Miss Caesars, 1980, what was it? 84? Oh, yeah, 1984. They don't have any record of it. Anyways, and ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that was it.
I have two fabulous, fabulous. I take great pride in saying this. But back in the day, we used to really, really work hard as far as productions are concerned. You're seeing one of the few survivors of the original idea for the Motown Review. Yes, a gentleman by the name of Dwayne Bradley collected the entertainers here in this city. We emulated Martha and the Vandellas, the Supremes, the Four Tops, the Contours, etc., on their 25th, and this was the year of their 25th anniversary, sitting in the audience was Suzanne DePage, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, and in fact, Martha came backstage and said, "Oh, I'm so glad that y'all don't sing, because if y'all did, I'd be out of a job." And several other Motown officials. That was my first one. That was with Melba and
Other stand-up performances from out-of-town performers?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Another standout memory from performing out of town. That was the last question.
Oh, Lord. Okay, well, many, but I mean, this one always stands out because me and Tempest were living together in Detroit, right down the street from Gigi's. But then I was always stupid and booked myself somewhere else or whatever, so I did that for 8 months, back and forth in Chicago. It's 41 minutes. Don't let them tell you anything different on your ticket. It's 41 minutes, and if you get a tailwind coming back, it's about 25. But they all knew me by name, and it was the same stewardesses and everything else, or flight attendants, excuse me, they're no longer called stewardesses. But most crazy memory of being, and I was so tired, I had so much money, but I was so tired I couldn't go shopping. I was, oh my God. And I didn't go to church back then. No, when I say church, church is the casino. So, oh bitch, you wanna go? I'm ready.
Something go on there. As a high compliment for a female impersonator. My friend and I went to the Sonic Temple years ago to see Eartha Kitt. Microphone. And when she came on to the stage, before she started her performance, she says, "Before I start my performance, I want all of you to meet someone that does Eartha Kitt better than Eartha Kitt." It was Miss LTD.
Yeah. So that her last performance here was at the music hall, and LTD took me to see that. And she said, "Girl, I got a surprise for you." And she took me backstage. And she was talking with her, and in fact, she gave her some personal garments. I didn't know that she does not like to shop when she's on the road. She gave her some personal garments. And they were sitting there and they were speaking to us just like,
well, nice, but she was one of the
thank you for reminding me about that. But yes.
So before saying goodnight, I have two things that I want to. Yeah?
I need two questions.
Okay.
Hey, you gotta get up, Timmy. You gotta work. You want this microphone? Yeah.
Okay. First question. If I think back to colleagues, what killed that?
The owners trying to compete against one another, and it was the owners that died. Tony was no longer around, Bruce was no longer around, Jerry was no longer around, Bob Keller was no longer around, Ron Hall was no longer around. They would all sit in a room, and this is what the Detroit Bar Guild was all about. They raised money, we, stopped the streets and everything else or whatever. If somebody, their family didn't want anybody to know that they were gay and wouldn't put a headstone on their grave after they passed away from AIDS or just passed away, the Bar Guild would take care of that. That was a big thing about the bar every night of the month, and still not hit all the gay bars in the city of Detroit. There was 50 or 60 gay bars in the city of Detroit. But the, internet, grinder, the non-smoking, all that shit is dwindling down. There's eight or nine now.
Whatever.
But the Bar Guild, all those guys would sit down at a bar, sit down in a room and go, all right, gas station would go, I need Tuesdays. Okay, Wednesday night, Backstreet was up for grabs. Wednesday night Backstreet, but, or Aruba or Menjo's. Joe LaRosa was part of that also. Remember that name, bitch? Yeah. Thursday night, Tiffany's. Thursday night was Tiffany's. Fridays was up for grabs because it was 3 for 1. That's back when you could buy Aruba, gas station, everything else. Saturday nights, Backstreet, Gigi's, Menjo's. Sunday, Tiffany's during the day, Menjo's at night. I remember waiting in line an hour to get into Menjo's on a Sunday night together because they had a certain vision. And not just the bar owners, it was Steve Daniels of the TNT. It was, the organizations that came together, and it was all one community. Now it's so fragmented that everybody's out for themselves. And it's really sad, and it used to be, they raised thousands.
Remember too that from the very first, the bar owners would get in drag. And that was the attraction to it all. Right. The bar owners would get in drag. And they were worse than the queens in a pageant, getting ready for that. And they spent thousands, but they raised thousands and thousands of dollars more.
The second question, when we talked about RuPaul earlier, there were some...
Fuck her!
There we go. There were some eye rolls.
I don't want to know anything about RuPaul.
I'm kind of curious I'm kind of curious as to... T, don't hold back. I'm kind of curious as to what your viewpoints are as to why that's a positive or a negative.
I don't want what I have to say on video. I don't give a fuck.
I'm not fond of it, and I don't hold no qualms about that. I'm not fond of her. The way that she makes the girls in that dressing room and the viciousness that's not a good show. That's not an atmosphere for a good show. And you put yourself out on Front Street for the sake of winning that RuPaul's winner. Yes. You never get your name first. It's always RuPaul. That's not what you work for in this art. There are girls that are far more talented, never make it. I know girls that have auditioned years and years and years that has never made it from Detroit. And it's a lot of areas that she doesn't, they're trans or not, that she will not have because of the fact that they may do Miss USA or they may do Miss Continental, etc., etc. She is not simply being, she feels and she tries to direct things in that manner. And that's not what female impersonation is about. And when people that don't really know the insides about what we do, and they see it this on Caddy, the Real House of Atlanta, and another one, because if you got to be around people that you got to argue and fight with all the time, you don't need to be around them. And when I dress around, we may fight and but we are the best of friends, and there it is, and that's just it. Each other. And they were hanging out all the time. But they make it that they can't say anything. No, I don't like this show. Not at all.
It's a scripted reality show. Everybody needs to remember.
Yeah. Do you think that because of the mainstream acceptance of it, it's made it more acceptable for people to be comfortable?
Oh, I mentioned that earlier, Timmy. I did. No, hey, girl, I hope you make your millions and everything else or whatever, and I'm happy she's doing it, and it's bringing the housewife from Royal Oak to the border of Detroit and Dearborn to see my shows on a Saturday night. Love her for it, yada yada. But I don't have to like what you do, and I don't have to like your drag, and that's just like anything or any entertainer that we work with personally or whatever. But I don't like, it's a scripted reality show, and that's what everything at Pronto having a big old RuPaul Drag Race party and everything else. Everybody's like, woo! That all happens in 2 weeks. That's all filmed in 2 weeks, and it runs for 12 weeks. It's all filmed in 2 weeks. they all know what the hell's going on. When they go into it or whatever. So, but that stuff that happens in that dressing room on RuPaul's Drag Race and everything else, that is not the art of female impersonation.
Would you say that it's helped people to become more open to who they are?
Step out a little more and everything else, or maybe want to be a female impersonator. But you know, but then everybody has to understand it's a reality TV show. I mean, you know, if you base your life on the rest of your life and everything else and backstab one another, da 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 da. I mean, it's a reality show. If you want to be a Kardashian, and you know, that's not what it's all about. And us that's been in the business, you know, more 40 and everything else, we sit there, and when I don't even watch it because it pisses me off, because I'm like, that don't even happen. It doesn't even happen in the art of female person. And I worked with her. I worked with her in Cleveland at Gabriel's. We were just talking about that in the dressing room. That doesn't, I mean, what she's doing or whatever, she's making her money, and yes, it's great TV and everything else, but that's really the quote-unquote, because now it's no longer our logo or whatever, but logo is owned by VH1 and MTV and everything else, so now it's on VH1 to make it more, even more acceptable and everything else or whatever. So you got housewives sitting in Farmington Hills and then they get there and go, well, this is so much better than RuPaul's Drag Race, because, yeah, girl, it's a reality show. This is entertainment. This is a Las Vegas review, and they don't get it. So, all right.
So,
you just got me heated about it.
But to point out too is, as you're watching RuPaul's Drag Race, what's going on in the workroom is not what reality is that goes on in our dressing rooms, because we're not sitting there and bitching at each other and doing all this backstabbing and all this other stuff. We're sitting back there, we're joking around and having a good time.
There you go.
There's more of a show in the dressing room than you get on that Sisters. Like Nickki was saying, that's a scripted reality show, and they're supposed to be doing all that madness. Just like if you watch the Real Housewives of the Real Housewives franchise, that's all scripted also. So I mean, it's like every
Saturday night, gay, straight, everything in between.
Yeah, that's great.
Really?
We're shut dead.
Okay. So where you at? Huh?
Gigi's. But Gigi's.
Mondays, we have female impersonators on Wednesdays and Thursdays, Saturday night show, and then once a month, they're entertainment destination of Michigan.
Thank God.
Thank God. Okay.
No, but
what
you're saying,
you come to all of them?
Mom, but what you're saying, I understand, just like the Baton Showdowns in Chicago and everything else, we couldn't have that where, well, first of all, that would have to be, you know, somewhere downtown by the stadiums and everything else and then everything, but, you know, just a reminder, Hamburger Mary's is coming to Detroit. But, yeah, it is. No, that's not a good thing. No, that's skag drag. So, I'm not a waitress and walking around tables doing a number. No, I'm not doing that.
Oh, come on. I'm not either.
Opening the cabaret room at Gigi's or whatever on Friday nights also or whatever, but that won't be until the fall, because during the summer the gay business falls off because everybody's at Suck and Fuck and everybody's at the beach and so it doesn't support the business and be able to support the time and the energy.
Right. So, as a historian, I just have to express my gratitude for you sharing your stories. But as a gay guy who grew up in life, the entertainment that you provided me, I just can't express how important that's been in my life. There was a night where Nickki sang Constant Craving, and I was holding my gut, laughing through the whole song. I mean, it was just amazing. And I just think, I really appreciate you as a historian, entertain us all. You know. Yeah. So before I sing tonight, I want to, every one of our panelists continue to perform. So I want to give you all a chance to plug your next gig.
Friday nights, showtimes 10, 11, and 1. You can make reservations Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays after 8 p.m. We're 24 hours a day on the Gigi's Cabaret Facebook page. And once again, thank you for shopping at Kmart. Reservations, ladies and gentlemen, are highly suggested. I will be appearing there tomorrow night, of course. Sunday, I'll be making a special appearance for Karen O'Brien's 50th birthday party at Gigi's. I'm usually not there on Sundays. Monday nights, ladies and gentlemen, I've been there for 26 years along with Chico ever since I went over. We won't go into that. Also, no flipper. Shut up. I need a button to be able to push to get back up to do flipper anymore. Also, Awards of Detroit, which we stepped on a little bit earlier. I'm like part of the board and everything else, but I try to raise the money and everything else. So we had a surplus this year, $264. Yay! After paying for all the awards and everything else. But I try to come up with things that will make the board and make the Perform Awards of Detroit money. And this has been talked about for years and everything else. And we have the capability to do it in the cabaret at 6 or 7 o'clock or whatever, and popcorn and everything else. We want to do, it's called Gigi's Rewind. And all these old entertainers that we've all mentioned here this evening, Vanessa LaSalle and the late St. Jacques and everything else, I have 40 years of video of these performances and these shows. And we want to present them on the Gigi stage, 14 feet by 10, with a tip bucket at the end of the runway, and all those proceeds going to the Perform Awards of Detroit. We will book it, and we will advertise it just like they were going to be there. Melba Moore, Elaine St. Jacques, Vanessa LaSalle, or whatever. And if you want to come back and see a 2-hour show, which I have all the videos and the DVDs and whatever, all that money is going to go to the Perform Awards of Detroit, and you get to see these legends working again. Would you come?
Yeah.
That's all.
Today is drawing very close to me, but July 22nd, like we mentioned, Dazzling Detroit. This is a pageant. This is a gentleman that is trying to recreate the pageant world here in Detroit, where it's a major production between the contestants and the production for the show itself. He's a gentleman that is not afraid to spend his money, but he puts on a darn good Continental USAs that will be appearing here. I'm sure you've heard of Mimi Marks, the Queen of all Queens. She will be here, and the last 2 Miss Continentals, Giselle Barbie, and we have Nickki, and Nat Nicole will be back in town. For those that missed her, she'll be back in town. But it's a wonderful, wonderful competition that's at the Art Institute. I cannot give you the date or the place at this present time, but there's a Continental prelim that will be coming up, and that won't be until January. But so keep that in mind and looking for that this year. I'm hoping that it does, and that's as far as because I'm Contest Connie, so
Contest Connie.
I'm on the pageant.
Honey, I don't remember the date that I'm supposed to be here sometime for something. You asked me a couple weeks ago.
I can't remember. I can't. We'll talk.
Okay. Other than that, I'm traveling with my day job, Nickki.
What? Book me, bitch! Didn't I?
I'm like Nickki. I will be performing this Sunday at Gigi's for Karen's birthday. Also, I'm a bartender at Gigi's. Not like this stuff. But come down Sunday, support for the show. You'll enjoy the show.
July 28th! Oh my God! Are you ready? I'm ready. It's going to be everything. Timmy, something, some campground. I don't know what it is. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Okay, so for any of you that go to the Greek Ridge Campground,
What is the
I forgot that. I'm sorry.
The very end of the month, starring
Great!
Miss Nickki Stevens.
Okay!
The ladies that go
The ladies of Glamour of Gigi's and Tempest. And we'll be having a birthday party for her there.
Okay, and now we do. Okay, we're gonna move on to Tim.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Professor.
Thank you, all of our panelists. Lady Tempest, Renée, Eunice Alexander, Queen Tisha Dior, and Nickki Stevens. Let's give them a round of applause one more time.
Thank you. If you're drinking and driving, drive somebody else's car. Thank you so much. Better be hated for what you are and love for what you're not.